And today, regardless of where you're moving from, Julie's going to share our approach to selling with ease and give a little bit of an update on the real estate market as well. So Julie is our Director of Home Sales and a Realtor here at Dovetail Companies and the Dovetail Group at Compass Real Estate. So with that, I will turn it over to Julie. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Megan. Thank you for the lovely introduction, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for staying inside on this beautiful morning to join us for a little while here as we talk about our process for selling your home with ease. So I'm imagining that many of you have attended parts 1 and parts 2 and part 2 of our workshop series. This is part 3. I'm going to do just a very brief introduction in case you haven't joined us for part 1 or part 2. We are Dovetail Companies. We're a one-call resource for older adults facing a major life transition. And if you've attended part 1, you know, we talked about planning for your next steps. Part 2, Joe gave us all the insights and expertise he has on how to right-size our lives and prepare for an upcoming move or just right-size the home that we're in. And today I'm going to be talking about selling our homes with ease and our very different approach to that than what you might have heard before. You've probably already met Aaron DiCarlo and Lauren Watts. They are our founders and president and vice president, and Joe's our director of move management. I'm our director of home sales and community liaison. So this is my area of expertise here, talking about the selling of your home. And at Dovetail, we provide you with the best of both worlds because we're not only local real estate specialists, but we're also expert senior advisors. So I'm sure you've heard our qualifications before, but we bring many of them to the table to really support you in approaching this big transition time in your life from a different perspective than you may have heard before, so that you can really put yourself at the center of the equation as you're facing a big change. So what does it look like to sell your home with ease? We really focus on 3 things to try to make this process a lot easier and less stressful. Number 1, we'll talk about this a lot today. We put you at the center of the equation. Number 2, we focus on maximizing the return on the equity you've already grown in your home. And we'll talk about that a lot today. And 3, we handle all of the details with care and compassion. And that's really central to everything that we do here at Dovetail Companies. So how do we put you at the center of the equation instead of putting the market at the center of the equation? Well, probably all of you, if you're even considering possibly selling your home, have been perhaps following the news or hearing the headlines about what's happening in the real estate market. But regardless of what's going on in the market, we really want to encourage you to think about your personal needs and what's going to work best for you as you navigate this transition. So we'll share a lot about how to do that, but I'd love to center the conversation on what are your needs, what's most important to you and the life that you're looking forward to living in the future, and what's most important to you as you go through this big change. So the primary factors influencing the real estate market right now that are good for you to be aware of, and you probably already are the rising interest rates. But to put that in context, some of you, if you bought homes maybe in the 80s, a lot of our clients have lived in their homes 40, 50, even 60 plus years. But if you were aware of the real estate market in the 80s, you might remember back when interest rates were around 17 or 18%. So we're just coming out of the last few years of historic lows in interest rates of 2.75, 3.5%, which were unprecedented. So rising interest rates to about 7% where they are now, and probably will stay there in the 6s for the rest of this year. It's really a normalization of interest rates. So while buyers had to adapt to that, we're finding that they mostly have. Last year was a little bumpy, as buyers had to adjust their expectations to what they could afford in a monthly payment. But we're finding that buyers are back this spring and adjusting their expectations to what they can afford in this new interest rate environment. The rising prices that you probably all heard about for the last few years are slowing. We had intense increases in home prices in 2019, 2020, 2021, and 22, especially the beginning of 2022. That is essentially slowing, but I'd like to make sure to draw your attention to the fact that real estate is hyper local. So you may hear headlines in the news about what's happening in real estate in general. And for the most part, when we see those headlines, they're across the nation. And what's happening in different markets across the nation is drastically different. And even what's happening in your town versus a town a few towns away could be very different. So we can always talk with you individually about what's happening in your town. But when you're hearing about, excuse me, rising prices or prices not rising, when you're looking to sell your home, it's good to get that information from a specialist, a realtor who can tell you what's happening in your town. But rising prices are in general slowing down a bit. However, low inventory is continuing. So we've had historically low inventory in the housing market, especially in the Northeast, for several years now, and that continues. There's several reasons that go into that. One of them is that people are staying in their homes longer. You may be experiencing this yourself. You may have stayed in your home for a very long time, perhaps longer than people in the past have, as we've adapted to healthcare availability, technology, and things to make living in our homes easier for a longer period of time. The other reasons is that building new homes has slowed down. We had a supply chain issue, many supply chain issues during the pandemic. So low inventory has continued. This is great news for you. If you're selling your home now and you don't have to buy a home, the fact that you have very little competition on the market is wonderful news. And then the high demand continues. So despite the fact that it's more expensive for home buyers these days to purchase homes, people still have to live somewhere. And rental prices are not very competitive with home prices. Rent is very expensive still. And home buyers see the value in building equity by purchasing a home. So there is still high demand, which is, again, great news for you. So other things that it's good to understand when you're thinking about selling your home are things that are affecting buyers, because the buyer's experience is going to impact your experience as a seller. So we talked about inventory, we talked about interest rates. The other thing to be aware of is that buyers are primarily shopping online for your home before they're shopping in person. It's amazing to think about, but most homes on the market, on the internet, have about 10 to 20 seconds to make a great first impression on a buyer, because that's how fast people are clicking through your listing online before deciding whether to come and see your home. So we're going to talk a lot today about marketing and presentation of your home and preparation. And all of those things contribute to you making that great first impression so that a buyer will spend longer online looking at your home and decide to come view it in person. The other thing impacting today's buyer is that buyers are expecting everything to be ready on demand. They really expect things to happen quickly. They want to look at homes at whatever hours are convenient for them. And we will also talk today about how we can make that possible for buyers so you get the best possible offer on your home, but make it not inconvenient for you. And then if you remember the last time you sold a home, you may remember sitting across the table from the buyers in an attorney's office with a room full of people, the agents, the buyers, maybe their parents, your attorney, their attorney, and handing the keys to them across the table. It was always a very celebratory, exciting moment, and nice for sellers to see who the buyers were that were buying their home. Unfortunately, that experience changed a lot during COVID. So you may find it a little bit anticlimactic now at the moment of the sale of your home, because most likely you'll be signing papers with your attorney prior to the closing and not attending the closing at all. Those things tend to happen remotely and without everyone present around the table anymore. So just to be prepared, it's a little bit different. We would love to begin this conversation today talking about a very specific way in which we approach the sale of your home differently than you may be expecting, and then and than most agents do these days. And that is this concept of moving first and selling later. So if we were all in a room together right now, I'd probably ask everybody to raise their hands and say, are you all thinking that you have to sell your home and then move? Or has anyone ever thought of the idea of moving first and then selling your home? And when I do that, when we're live in a room together, most people say, no, I thought I had to sell my house and then move and live in the house the whole time that I was selling it in order to buy my next place or move into my next place. Our preferred recommendation for how to approach your sale and your move, which is move first and sell later. And we have a really specific way we can help you figure out how to do that that provides a lot more ease and a lot less stress to the process. So living through a listing, meaning living in your home while it's on the market, versus living in your new home while you sell your older home, your current home. Let's talk a little bit about what that's like. So the old way is to live in your home and prepare it for sale and then move. And what does that look like? So if you're living in your home, the first thing you need to do is probably everything Joe has already instructed you to do at some point, which is to declutter your home, prepare it to list, organize all of your things, pack, donate, sell items, put items in storage if you have too many things that you're still keeping, maybe paint the home, do some repairs, cleaning, staging. All of that would have to happen while you're living in the home if you're going to sell first. Then you'd also have to make your home available and ready for all the activities involved in listing, which are taking photos and taking videos, maintaining the home to be clean and presentable for showings at all time, living through the disruption of having showing requests at any time, potentially nosy neighbors who love to come and see your home when it goes on the market. And then after you accept an offer, you'd still have to make your home available and potentially get out of the way and leave the home for inspections, radon tests, appraisals, water readings, Title V readings, gas and oil readings. And then honestly, I don't know why we put this last. It probably should be first. The emotional aspects of living in your home while other people are coming through it, viewing it, discussing purchasing it is a really big deal. Especially if you've lived in your home for a really long time. It can be really hard. So here's the other alternative. If you decide to transition to your new space before putting your home on the market, you're going to be focused on the future, which is what we always love to see. You're going to be choosing the items to bring with you, your furniture, your clothing, artwork, personal items, planning your floor plan for your new place, thinking about your new life, settling into your new life, enjoying meals with company, maybe making new friends, attending social activities if you're moving to a community like the Baldwin. And you'll be able to focus on the emotional aspects of adjusting to this new stage in your life without actually physically being in the house while all of the selling activities are going on. And then finally, you'll have professional support, because if you work with a team of professionals like us at Dovetail Companies, we'll be able to handle all the rest of those other details for you while you're living in your new space. So all of that won't affect your new lifestyle. So if you are going to think about approaching a move first, sell later transition, you're probably thinking, how am I going to pay for that though? So depending on where you're going and what the expenses are involved, you may need a small amount or a large amount of money to make that move. There's a few ways that you can approach that. And the one that we always bring up first is looking at the potential of a home equity line of credit. So some people already have a home equity line of credit. It's called a HELOC is the acronym. It's a second mortgage on your home that gives you access to cash based on the value of your home and the equity that you have available in the home. So that tends to be the most affordable and simple way to approach funding a move. You can go to your local lender. We're happy to make recommendations and speak with them about a home equity line of credit on your home, or expanding a current line if you already have a line of credit that would allow you the funds you need for a move. Some of the benefits of that are you don't pay, or you don't have to use the money. You don't have to use the whole amount that they make available to you. You only use what you need for your move. It tends to be the most affordable type of loan product that you can do. It's typically these days around 7-8%. It kind of runs with the mortgage rate industry, but you only have to take the money out for typically a short period of time, maybe 3 or 4 months until your home is sold, and then it gets paid right back. And one thing to note, to be aware of with a home equity line of credit, your home cannot be already on the market when you open a line of credit. Lenders will not open a line of credit for you if your home is already listed. So this is something to think about, excuse me. This is something to think about ahead of time, and it's always worth looking into to see if it might be a good product for you. Another way to approach it, if things are a little tighter on time, or perhaps you're in an emergency situation, is a bridge loan. I say that might be better for an emergency situation because it tends to be more expensive. Interest rates and fees tend to be a lot higher because it's a short, quick loan that requires a lot less paperwork and time to process. But it is an option if you are in need of funding more quickly. And then, of course, you can look at your retirement accounts, your investments. Always speak with your financial advisors, tax professionals about this, because there could be tax implications involved in that. And it may just be, depending on how your accounts are performing, a better option for you to do a home equity line of credit. So those are the 3 areas that people most typically look for when they're thinking about funding a move. But we always encourage you to talk with the community that you're moving into as well, because they may also have other options for you to consider. So what does it take to sell your home? Probably most of you haven't sold a home in a long time, and the process has changed and the market has changed very rapidly, especially over the last 10 years. So let's talk about what the process looks like. We'll break this down today into the 4 phases of selling your home. Phase 1 is preparation. Phase 2 is marketing. Phase 3 is listing. And phase 4 is what we call contract to close. So the preparation phase. This is everything that needs to be done to your house before you put the home on the market. And what I really want to say about this is it doesn't have to be overwhelming, because most people think that it will be really overwhelming. We know what it's like to go visit a community, think about moving into a new place, getting really excited about it, and then coming back home and facing everything in your home, whether it's all of your stuff or the list of projects that you thought you had to do on your home before selling that you've sort of had running in the back of your mind for years. And it can feel really overwhelming. But we're going to talk today about how we can do that with much less stress and make it easier for you. So number 1 is this part can take place, this preparation part of your home for sale can take place after you've moved, and we can manage all of it for you. Number 2 is we'll make recommendations that you only invest in updates to prepare your home for sale that are going to pay off with a greater return at the sale of your home. And number 3, all of the expenses to prepare your home for sale can be paid from the home sale with no upfront costs. We have a couple of programs available that help you do that. Even your moving and move management expenses could all be paid from the sale of your home, so that you're not incurring any cash expenses along the way. So let's talk a little bit about the kind of preparations that make a big difference to buyers. And before we even get into it, I just want to touch upon one thought that helps, I think, put this into context. Because today's buyers are facing much higher interest rates than they were in the past several years, they're able to afford less house than they thought they were going to be able to afford a year or 2 ago. And what that means is most of them are stretching themselves to afford the home that they want. It doesn't leave them with much money available for updates to the home that they're buying. And most buyers are putting down 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20% on their mortgage as a down payment. So they don't have a lot of cash. If sellers make these updates ahead of time, we see this pay off time and time again in a higher sales price. So if you're able to go through this process with our support of making these updates ahead of time, and we'll take care of all of this for you, you're going to get more on the home sale than a home that hasn't done these preparations. We see it over and over again because the buyers who come in may not have the $10,000 that it takes to paint, to refinish the floors, maybe to do some touch-up carpentry or fix a bathroom. But we're able to float those costs for you to the sale, to the closing of the sale of the home, and make your home move-in ready for buyers, increasing your potential sale price. So what are buyers looking for? So buyers love fresh paint. A new coat of paint goes a long way towards making your home really appealing and feeling move-in ready. Refinished floors are another thing that are a great selling point. So if you have hardwood floors that just need to be maybe a quick refinish, or you have hardwoods under carpet, sometimes taking up carpet and refinishing the hardwoods underneath can make a big difference on your sale price. Another product that we use that helps buyers visualize themselves in your space is virtual staging. So if you've moved out of your home first, the home is empty, and we're able to use virtual staging like you see on the right side of your screen here to help buyers envision what a space will look like when it's decorated. We'll show you a little bit more of that as we go along. Another thing that can make a big impact on the sale of your home is curb appeal, and this can sometimes include exterior improvements like paint. So this is a house that Joe and I visited last year before we put it on the market. I love to remind Joe that he was right. He recommended that this front door be painted black, and the sellers went with that recommendation, and it came out beautifully. So when we first visited, the sellers had already hired a contractor. They had scheduled a painter to come out and paint the house because they knew that it was ready for it. But their original plan was to paint the house the same colors that it was originally, which is what you see on the left top portion of your screen. So they had sort of like a cream color. They had brown shutters, brown trim around the windows, and brown trim around the whole house. And what we recommended was that they just freshen things up a little bit by painting the trim around the windows white. Those are not new windows. It's just white paint over the brown paint, and switching to a black shutter, a black front door, and changing the trim around the whole house to white. It made a huge difference. The house really looked a lot more fresh and contemporary and was really appealing to buyers, and it sold real quick. This is another home that we worked on. This home was well loved and lived in by the family that lived here for many years, and required quite a bit of work. This is one room in the house that I really love to share because it really was minimal work that made an enormous difference. So you could probably guess this room was probably painted in the 80s or 90s. There was a period of time we all probably remember where the dark green, dark blue, dark red walls were really popular with the dark woodwork. And obviously it needed a new carpet. This is the after picture of the same room. And all we did in this room was put a fresh coat of paint on the walls. We lightened that color up to a nice neutral gray. We put a new carpet in. And we painted the doors, but we didn't paint all of the windows because this home had been updated with new vinyl windows, but they had been updated with brown vinyl windows. So it didn't make any sense. We weren't going to paint vinyl windows. But just doing those few updates and painting around the fireplace surround made a huge difference. And then this is virtual staging. So all of the furniture in this room is virtual staging, the living room, the dining room in the background, you can see, and it made a huge difference. Now, there was a lot of work done on this house. So the investment, the total investment that the seller made in the improvements that we did for them after they moved out was about $60,000, but the return that they got on that investment in the sale price was $150,000. And this is something we talk about. What we meet individually with our clients, we can explain to you how that all works and the data points that we use and how we know the difference that the improvements are going to make. But I have a few more to share that are really great. So this is another home that they were obviously in the process of moving out. The kitchen hadn't been updated in many years. And in this room, we did a few things, but not everything. So this is a point that I'd like to really make here. The changes that we made were the most impactful ones. So we kept some appliances and updated the ones that needed to be updated. We did not change the floor, but we changed the countertops and the cabinets. We took down old wallpaper, but we kept the same backsplash because it was in good shape. So we're really cost conscious when we make these recommendations. This is not remodeling for your dream kitchen. This is updating and improving to be the most appealing to potential buyers so they can walk into a space and visualize themselves there in a nice, clean, fresh space. This is the same house. This was their dining room. They were packing, getting ready to go. And in here, you can see we've got wallpaper. We've got a floor that's probably been well loved over the years. And all we did here is refinish the floor and a fresh coat of paint. Took down that wallpaper, replaced it with a nice light neutral paint and virtual staging. This is the same house, bedroom, wallpaper, floor that needs refinishing, in the process of moving. And here we are again, fresh paint, refinished floor, virtual staging. It made a world of difference. And last room in this house is the living room. Again, they've got wallpaper. It was pretty neutral. I think you can see in the background, it was wallpaper, hardwoods, paint, refinished the floors, virtual staging. And it was a great result for this seller. The total investment in this house was $45,000. They were able to make a return of more than $264,000 with that investment because the home became so popular that buyers bid way up over the asking price. This was a different story. This was a much smaller home. This had been lived in by a lovely woman who unfortunately became ill and had to leave the home. And so she wasn't able to manage all of her things by herself. So things had become very cluttered. This was, you can see our boxes there. We were already in the process of moving all of her things to her new home. And this was a complete rehab of a small condo, just a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-floor condo. And the investment really paid off. Refinished floors, new kitchen, new bath, new fresh paint, and everything clean and fresh with virtual staging. It was an investment of about $50,000, and she made $100,000 on that investment when we sold. And she sold it right away, which was a huge advantage for her because she really needed to sell quickly. This is the last one I'll share today. We share this one. This is another one that Joe and I visited together because it was an absolutely stunning condo on the waterfront. And the homeowners had beautiful things. They had so much lovely artwork, items that they had collected from their travels all around the world. So this place really didn't need a lot of work. But what it needed was to be transformed into a space that buyers can imagine themselves in. So this is something that's really great to think about when you're selling your home. You may have the most beautiful home with the most beautiful things, but perhaps like this home, when someone walks into it, they might not be looking at your home. They might be looking at your stuff because it was impossible not to be intrigued and drawn in by the stories behind all of the beautiful art and collectibles that this family had. But that's not what you want when you're selling your home. What you want is for people to fall in love with the space and be able to envision themselves there. So they moved with their beautiful things first. And then all we did here was just put a fresh coat of paint and replaced a few carpets that were stained in the bedrooms, and then did virtual staging. So this now looks fresh and appealing for today's buyers. You may have preferred it the way it was before, which is the feedback that I've actually gotten a lot of times when we've done this presentation. The style was beautiful before, but this is a style that appeals to today's buyers. And it was a fairly small investment. It was a $17,000 investment just to freshen things up with paint and carpet and preparation, deep cleaning. But the listing price really made that investment worthwhile. And we were able to list for almost $1.2 million once those changes were made. So that's the preparation phase. I hope that it's been helpful to you to see some of those visuals of the before and afters and really the difference that that can make in preparing your home for sale. Remembering all the while that you don't necessarily have to be living in the home while all that's going on. Hopefully you take our advice to move first and sell later, and we can manage all that back at the house for you after you've already moved. So then what happens next? We move to the marketing phase of your home. So this is the strategy to position and price your home correctly to sell. What we're aiming for here is to sell your home for top dollar in the right time frame for you. So oftentimes we say as quickly as possible because most sellers do want to sell quickly, but let's remember our motto of keeping yourself at the center of the equation instead of the market. If you have a different time frame, then we're going to be working with you to meet your own time frame. I have a story about that I'll share later too. So marketing, first impressions are everything. Remember, we talked about that 10 to 20 seconds online that you get before someone's going to swipe right by your listing when they see your home. Marketing is everything, and it includes many things, including professional photography, 3D Matterport tours. You may have seen those at some point. It's an actual online version of a dollhouse, really, is how I like to think of it, where somebody can, with their mouse on their computer, walk through your entire home and really understand everything that it has to offer and the layout. We also love to use video because videos really tell a story about a property, not just photos that show what the features are, but really how a home can feel and what the lifestyle of living in that home will be like. We also do and recommend that everyone do floor plans to help people really understand the space when they're envisioning themselves in your home. So this is a video I would love to share. It's a quick 2-minute video, but it's one of our favorite listings and favorite marketing tools that we've used. And the reason is because this property had a story. The story of this property was an old farmhouse with incredibly beautiful gardens. And as you'll see, as I play the video, the person sort of half moved first. So she did take our advice. She moved first and then put the home on the market. But she was able to, because she was moving to a much smaller place, leave some key pieces of furniture that were beautifully suited to the marketing of this property. So if you're wondering where this furniture is coming from, and it's not virtual staging, it's real furniture that was in the property. But I'm going to hit play and share this with you, and I hope you enjoy it. So before I move on, I'd just like to share that we have a few clients now that we're taking a different approach to their marketing because they have beautiful exteriors to their home or gardens that they've really devoted a lot of loving attention to over the years. But they're not actually ready to move yet or to put the home in the market yet, but we're approaching that time of year that everything is coming into bloom. So I'd encourage you to think differently, and we're happy to talk about this, about, you don't have to feel locked into, gee, I'm not planning to put my home in the market until October, but my gardens look beautiful now. You don't have to wait to take some photos and get things ready. So we're actually going and doing videos and photos of people's exteriors of their beautiful gardens now in preparations for listings that may not come in the market for another 6 months, so that we don't miss that opportunity to really showcase the special exterior features of people's properties. So you also may have a home that has some beautiful interior features. This was an older home that was just gorgeous. It was built in about 1890, and it had these gorgeous stained glass windows, this beautiful entry foyer, and a gorgeous staircase. We want to make sure that when we're preparing your home for sale, that we're really capturing photos of these spaces that aren't just, a photo of a room, but maybe detailed photos of the special features of your home. This home here had this gorgeous entry. You couldn't help but sort of be stunned when you walked into the hallway here. It had this beautiful light fixture that just threw light all over this octagonal part of the entry hallway. And the homeowner who lived here had these beautiful pieces on the left and the right, these mirrored dressers that fit just perfectly into the space. And as soon as we walked in, we were able to see, wow, we really need to capture this with some of her items still in the home. So our approach with her, and she loved it, it worked out beautifully for her, was we took photos of the home with her things in it. She helped us declutter, just clear surfaces and make things look beautiful. And then after she moved, we came in and we took another round of photos without her things in it, so that people could potentially see a different style of the home than her own items. But some of her items were so beautiful, it was really worth doing that two rounds of photos to really capture that. We never would have been able to sort of like replicate what these beautiful dressers looked like in the hallway if we hadn't done that. And the other thing to remember, and it was so nice for her, was she loved having the photos of the home with all of her beloved items in it. That was we had a beautiful brochure that we do for all of our listings, and that was something that she got to keep as a memory of how beautiful her former home was. So we like to think of all of those aspects when we're thinking about the marketing of your home, and not just approach everything in one way. And when you're doing your marketing, print marketing matters too. Digital, of course, is what people see first, but when they come to your home, we want to make sure we have beautiful brochures, glossy brochures with photos for people to take away and remember how much they love your home when they're considering making an offer. So the other part of marketing is actually your pricing. And this is really, really important. And pricing is a conversation that we're going to have all throughout a process with our clients. So we'll talk about pricing when we do an initial consultation with our clients and do a comparative market analysis, so you can really see what the activity is in your particular neighborhood and town, how much things are selling for, how much your home would be worth if you put it on the market today. But because real estate changes rather quickly, that's an ongoing conversation that we have with our clients, sometimes over the course of a year or more, where we're looking again at home sale data and what's happening in your part of town and how your home price might be changing over the course of time. So there's a lot of misconceptions about pricing. And so we just like to call it right out to say the things that don't matter when you're thinking about pricing your home. So things that don't matter: how much you paid for it, how much you need from it, what you want to sell it for, what your neighbor says it's worth, what another agent says it's worth. And I'll just draw a little bit of attention to that. Unfortunately, sometimes agents will tell you what you want to hear and agree to an inflated price to get your business. but they're not helping you if they're doing that. You really need to have honest conversations about what the market really is doing and what the price of your home really can be expected to be. If someone agrees to list your home at a price that's higher just because you want that, but the data is not supporting that, that's actually going to hurt you in the end. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And also the cost to rebuild your home today is irrelevant to what someone will pay for it. So the truth is that buyers and sellers both determine a home's value. And we know that your home is priced correctly when when the buyer and seller expectations meet. So you're setting the price with your real estate agent's advice. The buyer is setting the value with what they're willing to pay. And the market, all of the data that we're collecting to share with you ahead of putting your home on the market is what sets the range. So we know the price range that we're working within. And our job is to bring you all the information that you need to make a good decision, because ultimately setting the price is your decision. We will have strong recommendations as to what we think that price should be, but it's ultimately your decision. So here's one of the reasons why, and probably the primary reason why it's so important to get the price on your home correct right when you come on the market. So your home is going to attract the most activity from potential buyers when it's first listed. And this is when you have the greatest opportunity to sell, when you're new on the market. So this chart just shows you the number of showings or views that you might expect on your home over the course of the first 8 days it's on the market. And the reason why we really peak here on day 1 into day 2 is because most people who are considering buying your home have been waiting for it, right? Remember, we talked about we have low inventory. So people are searching for a home that meets their needs and their criteria. Most people who are searching for a home are working with an agent who set them up on a search, and they'll get notifications sometimes daily, sometimes every hour on the new homes that come on the market that match their search criteria. So because all those buyers are waiting to see your home, they're going to get notified right when it comes on the market, which is why the views on your home are really going to peak on day 2. After that, it will fall off because all those people, and it could be hundreds of people, it even could be thousands of people with matching criteria to your home, will have already seen your home right when it comes on the market. And there's something kind of cool that we can do too for you, is we can tell you how many people in the MLS have a search criteria that matches your house. So you'll kind of have an idea of if there are 1,500 people or 500 people looking for a house like yours. So if we don't get the price correct right when the home comes on the market, we're going to know, because we'll have either very few showings or showings and no offers. And that's because buyers, as they're waiting for your home to come on the market, have really been educating themselves for what other homes are selling for. So they're going to know pretty immediately if your home is priced within their expectations. So that's why we really don't want to go on the market too high, because it tends to make us sit on the market and not sell when we do that. So what do you control and what don't you control when you're putting your home on the market? So things you do control, we've already talked about: the property condition, the availability for showings. If you're not living in the home, that's not going to be difficult. The asking price, which we just talked about, and whether or not you agree to any offers that are presented to you. Things you don't control: a lot of things. Other homes that go on the market. We just put a home on the market 2 weeks ago, and the house across the street went on the market 5 days later. There's no predicting when that's going to happen. And did it slow things down? Perhaps. There was a coming soon sign out in front of the house across the street. And I think a lot of people who were looking at the home that we're listing were thinking, well, I should probably wait and see what that other one looks like when that comes on the market. So we had no control over that. The price of the other homes compared to yours, you can't control, whether it's a buyer's or a seller's market. The interest rates, obviously, we have no control over. And when the perfect buyer walks through your door. So on to phase 3, the listing phase. This is what happens when your home goes on the market. All of the preparations have been done. All of the marketing has been prepared, and now it's time to, we call it going live with your listing. So most people, when they're selling their home, do want to list on the MLS. That's the multiple listing service. This exposes your home to the greatest number of buyers. There are sometimes different cases where it might be in your best interest not to do that. We could talk about that on an individual basis, but 95% at least of our clients do decide to list their home in the MLS to get the greatest exposure to the greatest number of buyers. So once we have all your marketing and all the details of your home organized for a listing, we enter that into the multiple listing service, and then that syndicates out to search engines all over the internet. There are hundreds of them. The ones that you might be familiar with are Compass.com, Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, any of the other listing sites that are managed by different brokerages across the country. There are literally hundreds of them. That process only takes a few hours. Sometimes it's almost instantaneous. Technology is incredible. Once we put you in the MLS, suddenly you'll start appearing all over the internet, which is great news for you because you just get more and more exposure. And then this is when we get ready to start showing the home. If you're not living there, or even if you are, we can discuss that on a case-by-case basis. We'll put a lockbox on to make easy access to the home and easy scheduling of showings. We'll schedule showings, schedule an open house. And my favorite way to do this is to list your home on a Wednesday night. And that way, by Thursday morning, everyone who's looking and thinking about visiting open houses or showings over the weekend are aware that your home is on the market. And then generally, I recommend we hold all showings to the first open house on the weekend. And the reason for that is because it creates a sense of excitement and urgency around your listing. If we hold all showings, that means that everyone who's been waiting to see your home will show up at the same time. And we've got more cars out front and more traffic coming through. And then everyone arriving to look at your home realizes how many other people are also looking at your home. And that can drive a sense of urgency and increase our chances of getting an offer more quickly. So following the first open house, we'll debrief with you. We'll let you know the agent feedback and the client feedback of people who came through. And if we're lucky, we'll get offers after that first open house. But given the way that the market's going now, I'd say that really depends. Just to put your expectations on something realistic, it depends on where you live right now. We're not having the crazy, typically we're not having the crazy, 30 offers and 70 people at the first open house. Because those low interest rates were driving people to try to compete really heavily for the low inventory. But we are seeing a lot of activity. It just sometimes is taking a little bit longer, maybe a couple of weeks to get an offer. But if your home is very well prepared for sale, if you've taken the recommendations for painting, perhaps floor refinishing, then we are seeing offers come in more quickly. And then we go through this process with you until we get an offer that you would like to accept. So continuing to show the home, continuing to hold open houses, providing you with feedback until you get an offer that matches your needs, or perhaps we have to adjust a price or have those conversations if we're not receiving offers. And then we go into contract negotiations. This is just an example here of what it would look like a live listing on Compass.com. And this is you, right? Living in your new place, having popcorn, watching a movie, not worrying about what's going on back at the house. Maybe you're writing your novel that you've been waiting to have time to focus on, or I don't know, FaceTiming your family and friends to tell them you got an offer on the house. This is all just to illustrate that you can be enjoying your life while this is going on and not worrying about all the details that we're managing for you. And when you do get an offer and you decide to accept it, you move into phase 4, which is the contract phase, or sometimes called contract to close. So these are all the things that happen after you accept an offer. And there's a lot of things that happen. So we're not quite to the finish line yet. Getting an offer is great news. Accepting one that you're happy with is wonderful news, but there's still work to do. So these are some of the things you can expect to be going on during this contract to close phase, which your agent will handle all of this for you and keep you informed every step of the way. One thing to be aware of is that this phase is usually about 45 days long. If you are one of the lucky few to receive a cash offer on your home and your buyer does not have a mortgage, then you might actually go through this phase in 2 or 3 weeks. It could be really fast. But what typically drives the timing of this phase from the time you accept an offer till the time the house is closed or finally sold is the lender for the buyer. They have a whole process that they have to go through, and it's usually about 6 to 7 weeks. So when you accept an offer, you will decide to accept it. You'll sign the offer contract and make sure that all the terms are agreeable to you. And then you'll move into a contingency phase. And this phase is the time where the buyer can do their inspections if they're having a home inspection, where your attorney, and we do always recommend you have a real estate attorney representing your side of the transaction, is reviewing and drafting a purchase and sale, working with the buyer's attorney to come to agreeable terms and make sure that the final contract for the purchase, which is called the purchase and sale agreement, is agreeable to everyone, and you have all the protections you need to get you through to a successful sale. The buyers will make a first deposit that will be held by the listing agent's brokerage while all the inspections are going on. They might be reviewing condo documents if you have a condominium. And then we're aiming to get that purchase and sale signed probably in the first 10 to 14 days after the offer has been accepted. Once you get the purchase and sale signed, that is a little bit more of a secure place. You've made it through those contingencies, especially home inspections. They can be a little bit daunting. And you've come to a solid contract agreement. From there, it's usually about 30 days until your home closes, and there are a number of hurdles to cross during that time. The next hurdle to cross would be an appraisal of your property. So a lender for the buyer would send out an appraiser to make sure that the price that they agree with the price that the buyer is paying for your home. And you may also need to be calling your insurance company, your utility companies, letting them know you're going to be moving and the date you're going to be moving. Make sure you don't cancel anything until the closing date. And then your last hurdle is waiting for that call telling you that the buyer's got their financing. So we will have done a great deep dive into the buyer's financing ahead of time, talked with their lender, really vetted them as being financially capable and approved to buy your home. But it's not over till it's over with someone's mortgage. We want to make sure those buyers aren't doing silly things like going out and buying a new car or doing anything to damage their credit during the home buying process. So usually about 10 days before the closing, you will hear from us that the buyers have their commitment to close on their financing, and we're heading towards settlement, which is the closing of the home. And as I said, that's probably going to feel a little bit anticlimactic. You'll probably be signing papers with your attorney at a distance and then getting a phone call from us when your home has been sold and is on record. And then it's time to celebrate. These are our friends Jan and John. They had a little bit of a bumpy ride to the closing table, but they were extremely happy when it was done. And that's how you sell your home with ease. Before I leave you today, I would just like to share with you just a few things you could be thinking of now. So if you still have time before you have to sell your home, there's a lot of things you can look at ahead of time. So you can be working on some curb appeal, or just maybe doing a visual inspection of the outside of your home. If you notice that you have some loose shingles or places that your siding maybe needs some repair, those things can be done ahead of time. You might want to be thinking about investing in some painting on the outside, talking with family, doing pre-listing home inspections. I can't overstress the talking with family. If anybody's still got family with items that are living in their house that don't belong to you, it might be a good time to start talking about what's going to happen with all those things. You can be working on all those things that Joe taught you at the right sizing session: sorting, planning, organizing, maybe getting appraisals or estimates for things you'd like to sell. And honestly, it's never too early to have real estate agent come in and walk the property with you, we're happy to do that. We always offer a complimentary market analysis so that you understand the value of your home and what are the things that you can really be focusing on now to get you the most value for your home when it's time to sell. So thank you for spending this time with me this morning. It's really been fun sharing our process with you, and I appreciate being here with everybody.